Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this version of Learning Views webinar series sponsored by Training Pros and Harrisburg University. I'd like to thank you all for joining. Training Pros is the leading provider of contract L&D talent in the United States. We provide organizations the talent they need to design, develop, and deliver learning solutions when they don't have the internal capability or staff. I'm Don Decker, a relationship manager with Training Pros based in New York City, and I primarily serve clients in the New York, New Jersey area. I come to Training Pros with over 20 years of experience in learning and development in retail, financial services, and government. At Training Pros, we provide instructional designers, e-learning and mobile learning developers, trainers, facilitators, and OD consultants. Our clients work with local relationship managers who are all experienced in the L&D industry. We invest time in understanding our client's business so we can consult on the right staffing solution for each project and provide the right talent the first time. Harrisburg University provides a master's level program to professionals who want to pursue an advanced degree in the learning technology space. Training Pros and Harrisburg University are partnering on this webinar series in order to share some of the developments that we're seeing through our Training Pros clients. We hope that you come away from today's session better informed on microlearning and some of the tools that are best suited for microlearning. With that, I'd like to turn the session over to our guest speaker, Teresa Davenport of Davenport Design and Development.
Thanks so much, Don. I'm so excited to be with everyone today to talk about this exciting topic, microlearning. And I invite you to visit my website. What you see on the screen, you'll find some additional resources there, previous webinars I've done with Harrisburg University and Training Pros. Love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn. And of course, if you want to send me an email, you have my email address. One other thing, we've got a lot of people on this call that I have a feeling you're on the call because you already know something about microlearning and you just want to learn more. So as we go through the webinar today, please share your tips, your resources, tools that you used that I may not mention, because this will sort of be a crowdsourcing event. We want to learn from all of you. And after the webinar, I will try to collapse the information that you've provided and broadcast it back out via a blog. So we make sure we capitalize on everyone's knowledge. So with that,
Hey Teresa, it's Justin. I think you might have accidentally muted the mic there. Looks like it's showing up as
let me
muted.
get
So,
started. Wow. Okay, that's a little scary. Jump in and interrupt me again if that happens. What I was saying, and you can see it on the screen, what Churchill said. He didn't like being taught necessarily. And that's why microlearning is such a good avenue. And it's a shame Churchill wasn't around to enjoy it, because microlearning allows us to learn in ways that we want to learn. Now, our job as learning and development professionals is to figure out how to make that best happen. And that's what we're going to do today. So I mentioned that we may use a little crowdsourcing to make sure we capitalize on everyone's knowledge. So we'd like to hear from you. What is your one sentence definition for microlearning? And if you're not an experienced microlearning purveyor, well, take your best stab at it. So Justin, if you would open up that poll and just allow people to put in their one sentence definition of what is microlearning. All right. Learning in bite-sized pieces, small chunks, small chunks. Okay, I'm going to start broadcasting so that you can see what people are saying and you don't repeat. Okay, small, concise learning, big impact. Excellent. Learning on a continuum, learning what you need when you need it. Learning in 5 to 7 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. Awesome. Okay, awesome. Justin, if you would go ahead and end that poll. And what I'm going to do is try to come up with a definition that captures what you just said in just one statement. So let's see. I can do that easily and quickly for us. Microlearning is, according to you, a focused short learning event. I think pretty much everybody was saying that. Short was expressed in a variety of ways, but I think that's mostly what we said. So my definition there of what we said. And by the way, this will be also available. This entire webinar will be available to you in our files that will be available through this webinar screen that you see now. And as a download, you will not see the things I'm typing now, but I will be putting those together for us later. According to the experts, I did a little research before this webinar and tried to see what people that are in the field doing microlearning said. And they pretty much came away with one definition, that it is short, focused learning event designed to meet a specific learning outcome. So there you see three characteristics, one focused on the time and the other two focused on a learning outcome. So really just two primary criteria. Now let's look at the length of time that you think would be the maximum ideal length for a microlearning event. And again, Justin, if you would pull up the poll and allow people to enter what they think would be the ideal length of time for a microlearning event. Right? Excellent. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and broadcast your results. You can keep on making your choices if you haven't. All right. So this is interesting. I'm going to, Justin, if you would just go ahead and take us back out to our presentation. And it looks like the majority of you were saying that the ideal length for a microlearning event would be 3 to 5 minutes. That's what I saw. 5 minutes was actually the peak. That's what got the most responses, was the 5-minute time frame being the maximum length for a microlearning event. Again, I looked at some research-based answers that the experts are saying is ideal, and 5 minutes was the window that would be your maximum ideal length for microlearning. 3 minutes, I put here even better, and there were some reasons for that. If you can communicate your message in 3 minutes, yeah, even better. If you need the 5, that's okay. But what we're seeing is that people in the workplace, in a brick and mortar workplace, typically can work uninterrupted for up to 20 minutes. More likely, their average is going to be along the lines of 10 minutes. So to be able to fit learning into that 10-minute window, something that's 3 to 5 minutes is going to be useful to a worker that's trying to fit that in with other tasks that they're doing on the job. So let's look at one more poll from you. What do you think is the best way to experience microlearning for your learners? And I put up just 3 examples on the screen, but here's some others. If you would make your choices, and you can choose more than one here. So what would you think would be ideal for your learners to learn in a microlearning event? All right, I'm going to go ahead and start broadcasting here, and I see a big winner early on is video. Most of you are saying that video is a great way to learn. I see a lot of simulations, job aids. Awesome. Learning games. Okay. Looks like we're about there. So Justin, if you would take us back to our presentation. And I would say that for you guys, the big winner that most of you selected was video. So that is really interesting. Some close seconds were, what did we see there? Simulations, and I don't remember what the other one was, but there was a third one that was a close third. But mostly what I see recurring there was in interaction, something that has a lot of movement going on. Experts would say that the best delivery platform for microlearning is video or highly animated and engaging graphics with audio. So probably implicit. If you're saying video, you're assuming audio is there as well. So experts are saying that these are the best avenues or the best media to employ in your microlearning. Now, there are some other options that could also work really well and people really highly engage, and that is, of course, having some interaction, such as gamification with points and leaderboards. Also, virtual reality and augmented reality. If you have not explored those, I have some resources at the end of this webinar that you may want to take a look at, free ebooks that are really emerging technologies we as instructional designers and learning and development professionals should be aware of and begin to start learning how they work and what tools we would use to create virtual and augmented learning. The reason they're not common right now is because typically the people for whom we are developing microlearning do not have goggles sitting on their desks for their employees. So it's just not a realistic answer for the average employee in the workplace. But I would not be surprised if we see that trend emerging. So anyone that is a proficient e-learning developer now may want to start exploring those avenues. A few other attributes of microlearning, according to the experts, is microlearning should be on demand. In other words, a learner should be able to access the microlearning when and where he or she wants to use it. Also, right out of the box, it gets and keeps a learner's attention. It's fast-paced, so that's how it keeps the learner's attention. For me, I typically have screens that will last anywhere from 3 to a max of 15 seconds for my micro learning. And within those, especially if it's a longer one like 15 seconds, there's going to be some motion and action going on to keep the learner's attention. Also, it's immediately applicable. So after someone participates or views a microlearning event, they have something they can take away and put to work right then. I've put together a microlearning just for this webinar to give you a taste of what a microlearning event may look like. This is a very simple one, but there are a few things I want you to pay attention to. So as you watch, try to notice 3 things. 1, how long was it? 2, what was the main idea? Remember, I said it should convey one main idea. And 3, what media did you see being used? So Justin, also as you're watching, if you look at the top right of your screen, you'll see the 4 directional icons. If you want to watch this in full screen mode, go ahead and click that. And once the microlearning starts, you'll see that on your full screen. So Justin, if you get that going for us.
Let's learn about the ABCDs of microlearning. First is assess. Assess your learners to find out who they are, where they are, and what devices they will be using to access the microlearning. Next, assess the development platform. What tool is best based on what you've learned about your learners, and what media will work best for them, such as audio, video, and interactions. You must also assess distribution. How will learners find the microlearning? Email, LMS, intranet, social media, all of the above? Next is build. Build your storyboard, showing all the assets you will use, but don't do any programming yet. Once your stakeholders have approved your storyboard, build the final product. Next, test the microlearning to be sure it works. C is for continuously improve. This is the time for your stakeholders to review what you've done and provide feedback so you can make final revisions. Once again, you'll need to test to make sure everything works perfectly. D is for deploy. Now you can distribute the microlearning through the channels you chose back in Assess. After the microlearning has been available to learners for a while, collect analytics to see what's working and what's not. Then you can begin the ABCD cycle again and incorporate what you've learned. So there you have it. Microlearning is as easy as assess, build, continuously improve, and deploy.
All right, thanks, Justin. If you would take us back, and also on your main screen, your Adobe Connect screen, you will see there is a resource that has a hyperlink. That is a link to this microlearning. So if you want to view it, you can click that link now. Go ahead and bookmark it so you can see it in the future apart from this webinar. So the questions that I had asked at the beginning were, how long was it? And if you'd like to go ahead, if anyone wants to enter that in the chat, if your observation was going on about how long was that? Okay, 3 minutes. Interesting. 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Interesting. Okay, and then what was the main idea? You would also type that in the chat, and let's see what you came away with as the main idea. There you go. It's right there in front of your face. All right. So the main idea was those four things. And then what media did you see being used as you watched the microlearning? All right. Video, interesting. There was really no video. It was, yeah, GoAnimate was the tool. There was animation. In other words, things were moving around. There were graphics and there was audio. So yeah. There was some text. So there was text on the screen, which I think would be considered audio. Very good. All right, well, let's move on. And I'll give you more of the inside story because this really is starting to take apart how it's done. It was in length 1 minute and 46 seconds. That was the exact length of that microlearning. The time to build was, I really wasn't tracking it, but I think it was about 4 hours. The first thing I did was lay out the screens in GoAnimate, what I wanted to see happening on each screen, just building from the ABC outline that I had created, those 4 words. And then I spent about probably an hour and a half writing a script, recording the script, and editing the script, which actually I never did any editing. I did each one of those screens as one sentence. There were maybe 2 sentences every now and then. So I didn't, it was very easy. I just said the sentence and stopped the recording. Then for the graphics, I spent maybe a half hour seeking out graphics that I could not find within GoAnimate. And for the music, I actually used what was there in GoAnimate. So it at the most was 15 minutes to listen to a few tunes, pick one, put it in and sync it with everything else. Also paying attention to the volume level. And I'll talk more about volume levels in just a minute. For the testing and syncing, I spent about an hour making sure that everything worked well together. Now, in this build that you see right here, there were some steps that I did not do that were a part of ABCD. I didn't have any reviewers. You guys are it. So there was no testing and things like that. So it went a little quicker in that respect. One thing I will say about time is you definitely need to have your team on board at the beginning of your micro learning creation so that you're making decisions as you go and you don't pull anyone at the last minute, because that can greatly blow out your time, your development time, if you pull new reviewers in as you go down the path. What I used for development, as someone said, I used GoAnimate, which is a subscription-based, cloud-based authoring development tool. It's very suitable to microlearning events like what you just saw. I could have also used PowerPoint, Storyline, Captivate. There were a number of other tools that would have accomplished the same thing. But I'm using GoAnimate a lot right now, trying to build my skills in that area. So frankly, it was just a good experience for me too, to keep on using it. I used my iPhone for audio. I have a headset and a mic and everything that I can use for recording, but it was not working properly a few days ago when I got ready to do this. So what you heard was iPhone with no sound editing whatsoever. Shutterstock, I pulled a few Shutterstock photos in that I found online that were appropriate that I could not find in GoAnimate. GoAnimate has over 1,000, probably, I don't know how many images and backgrounds, but they are all in sort of clip art or cartoon form. They're not real photos, and I like using real photos in my microlearning. So I used GoAnimate for the music. I did not have to go outside of GoAnimate. They had a tune that I liked, and I used GoAnimate for the backgrounds and for a good bit of the graphics. So a few best practices for microlearning. One central main idea is that's the biggest thing that I can tell you is if you try to pack too much in, you're going to lose your learner. One thing to think about, the one that I just did, is I could take the ABCDs and I can now create another micro learning for just assess and the other 3 points. So it was a micro learning that you could unpack in subsequent micro learnings, but you want each micro learning to convey one idea. And as I just was saying, you could use a micro learning event, one micro learning, as part of a larger learning or performance goal. So say if you have a course that participants are going to take, like we're doing today, but you want them to take a micro learning event before the actual course. That's one example. They could also do what we have done during this webinar. They actually see a micro learning event or interact with one during a 1-hour webinar or some other course. Or you could introduce a micro learning event after a primary learning event as a refresher. So those are just some examples of, or best practice of when to insert micro learning into your larger learning. Also, you can use multiple distribution outlets. Now, this point and the next point really get into marketing. Love to see raised hands. If anyone comes from a marketing background, you have a raise hand tool up by your mic. If you do, you're going to be awesome, a step ahead, because you can think back to, all right, how often, how many ways can I provide this micro learning event so that they have it in front of them? They don't have to go looking for it. So some examples from a corporate standpoint, from an organizational standpoint, is you could provide a link to your micro learning via an email or a series of emails. They may get it every week and it's the same micro learning. Your intranet, and it could be occurring in multiple places within your intranet as a link, a graphic that is linked to your micro learning event. It could be part of your learning management system, which is essential if this micro learning will be something that participants have to show that they actually completed. It could also be distributed via social media if your organization uses social media. So those are just some examples. And again, I encourage you to use our chat. If you have other ideas about distribution for micro learning, please be adding those to our chat below. Also, this is another borrowing from marketing, another point, to use consistent branding. And by branding, I mean a look and feel, your corporate colors, your corporate logo, perhaps a template that everyone uses the same look and feel of the screen. Those are examples of branding. You can even use branding that is specific to a series of micro learning events so that they all have the same look and feel. Music. You could use the very same music for a series of related micro learnings that are all tied to one main learning goal. So that's another way to make it familiar to your learners. When they have that familiarity, they actually can learn better and faster. Also, characters. We can think on the branding, music, and characters. If you think about commercials, I'm sure you can think of some like auto insurance commercials that you can associate that auto insurer with a specific character and even specific colors that they always use. So if you carry that over into micro learning, again, you give your learners a sense of familiarity that they will gravitate to. You can use Bloom's taxonomy. Anyone who's done webinars with me knows I love Bloom's taxonomy. So you can think about your micro learning events in this context when you're beginning your design. Is this going to be a micro learning event where people were just learning new terms and concepts that they'll need to recall later? Do they need to demonstrate an understanding of those terms and concepts? Do they need to have an opportunity to practice applying terms and concepts, such as like a simulation? Or might they be needing to analyze or evaluate a case study or a scenario and applying the guidelines that they've been learning and the concepts they've been learning to see, does this scenario fit? Does it not fit? What's wrong? Those are all examples moving up Bloom's taxonomy of ways that you can use micro learning. The only one I haven't done is creating a micro learning event for creating something new. Like if you knew your musical theory and you're being asked to create some new type of music, that would be an example, which we don't do much in the workplace. But writing, you need to write something new based on the concepts you had learned earlier. So the microlearning could prepare you for that. But I think that's probably a least common use of microlearning. Also, you can use text and graphics and possibly interaction and gamification to support key ideas. And I go back to the AR, the augmented reality and the virtual reality. You want to have the most rich user experience. And because it's so short, you, the designer, can pack more into what you're allowing your users to experience. Assessments are optional. The only time you would need assessments is if you're trying to provide a certification for someone. They have to show, like I mentioned earlier, if the microlearning is being distributed through your LMS and the participants have to show that they can perform something or they demonstrate knowledge, then you might need an assessment in your microlearning. Otherwise, application immediately after the microlearning is its own assessment. Finally, and very important, you want to make sure that your microlearning event can be accessible and viewable via whatever device your learners will be using. So this means you've got to create a testing process that allows you to test in all the possible browsers and devices that learners may be using. Now let's look at some microlearning ideas. And as you listen, be thinking of your own, because you're going to get a chance to share your own ideas. First of all, with standalone microlearning that that is only going to be used independently, I will say caveat, it could be used with others, but it doesn't have to be. Some examples of these might be just someone needs login instructions or access through a knowledge base. So knowledge-based tutorials are an example of things that could be standalone. Walking through a task at work. So you have new hires and they need to know how to do something. If they just have a microlearning where they could see the task being done, especially like in manufacturing environments where they need to be able to see how to use a certain piece of machinery or how to perform a process. Those are great examples of a standalone. Also for sales, you can do product demos as microlearning events. Related microlearnings that could be learned as a group, but standalone might include treasure hunts. I love doing treasure hunts with new hires. And instead of having new hires wandering all over a building, again, they could use microlearning to explore their facility, find their way around, and find cultural things being done, like if it's safety or maybe it's some of their primary strategies that they want everyone to embrace within the company. They could look for examples of those being done in a virtual environment. For pre-learning, oops, I went too far. For pre-learning, I've already addressed these briefly, but those would be times when you want learners to have a micro-learning experience to introduce terms and concepts that they would begin to immediately apply once they get in the classroom. So it's the flipped classroom model, and you're just using micro-learning as the vehicle to help people learn terms and concepts. Examples are soft skills. You get your people in the classroom, if they are already familiar with the new terms and concepts they will need, then when they get in the classroom, you can jump much more quickly to application and interaction and engagement. Also, they are excellent as marketing tools, pre-learning. You can include a link to a micro-learning that may be a part of your course, or it may just serve as marketing to get people excited about registering for a course. We already saw an example of micro-learning in a larger event, but one reason to do micro-learnings in a course is if you want the same message pervade with every course, regardless of who is facilitating, then micro-learnings are a great way to go, because you'll have your CEO or a star performer talking about, usually in a video, whatever this important point is, and you don't have to worry about, is this facilitator explaining this concept or telling this story the same way as another facilitator. So your participants get the same message, a consistent message from someone that has authority within your organization. So that's just one example of using your microlearning within a larger learning event. And they're great for things like demonstrating a safety process or compliance, emergency preparedness. Again, when you want people getting a consistent message, microlearnings are great. For post-learning, say you took a course and now you've got to get certified, but you took the course 3 months ago. Microlearnings are an excellent tool for allowing people to get refreshed on a topic or a course without having to retake the whole course. You can even extract pieces of the course without recreating it. Say it was software and you just extract the simulations and turn those into microlearnings that people can take before they have to get certified in this software usage. So that's just one example of post-learning with microlearning events. Yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to share with these because I don't want to give too many away because I want you to have an opportunity to share your ideas. Now, I've given you 5 areas that might be topics that you can think of great microlearning key ideas, but if these are not the ones that fit your thoughts, then there's another box outside the box. And so you can put your idea there. What we want to do, and Justin is going to open up a poll for us, you could go ahead and do that, is share your main idea. What would the microlearning be about? And then if you care to share, you can think it through. Who would your target audience be? Would this be pre-learning, during a learning event, or after? If you don't enter anything else, at least tell us what your main idea would be for your webinar. For your microlearning. Right. And I know you're trying to think, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about this. All right, these are awesome. Be as specific as you can. Remember how we want one primary idea. Like if you're saying HIPAA, what aspect of HIPAA? Yes, safety is awesome. Safety practices are excellent. Payroll, active listening. Oh yeah, these are wonderful. Take some time before we close this poll, and you can scroll on any one of these. Take some time and look what everyone is saying to gather your ideas. And Justin, if we can save these, yeah, and I can get them back. I believe we discussed that already. Then what I'll try to do is I'll try to compile these. And again, I'll have a blog on my website where I try to provide these back to you. And you can see what everyone said. And perhaps if you didn't mind sharing, we can share each other's ideas. These are awesome. Also take a close look at these and try to pick out a few favorites, because at the end of this webinar, we are going to design a microlearning using an idea that we select together. So take a close look, and then I think we probably need to get back to our presentation. Great work, guys. These are excellent ideas. Okay, so we've talked about methodology, best practices. We haven't gotten deeply into the tools. So now we're going to get deep into the how-to. This screen can look small on your screen, so this is another time where you may want to not blow up, but enlarge your screen so that you can see as I reveal each of these tools, types of tools. Also, I invite you, you may have to toggle back and forth, but if you have a tool that you find very useful, and I didn't mention it here, please add it to our chat so that we will have a collective body of knowledge here. Again, crowdsourcing and building on what you know. First, let's talk about development. For development tools, the ones that I use most often for developing microlearning are Camtasia and GoAnimate really are the two that I'm using most often. The thing about both of those is they do not allow user interactions. So if you want to include user interactions in your microlearning, consider Storyline or Captivate. Those both allow you to allow your users to participate as well and interact with your microlearning. PowerPoint is a great option if you want to prepare a storyboard before you actually do your programming. So it's a great starting point if you're working with a team and they're familiar with PowerPoint. It will come easily into Captivate once you're done in PowerPoint. So that's a nice starting point, especially if you're new to microlearning, and it may be your ending point. You may do everything you need in PowerPoint. Presenter is also an easy to use tool that has less functionality, so it's another easy one to start with. Articulate also has other products that are not quite as powerful as Storyline, so Storyline is certainly not the only Articulate option. Let's see, Branch Track is a tool that you can use to create branching scenarios. And once you create them in Branch Track, you can pull them into these other tools. It's seamless. The learner has no idea that you've used more than one development tool, but you can certainly use that one as a nice tool for case studies or scenarios. I think that you can also use it standalone if that's the only kind of thing you're doing in your microlearning. For music, I find myself using Premium Beat as a subscription-based music source if I don't find the music I need in one of those development tools. Most of those development tools already have a fairly robust suite of music to choose from. Now, if you use something free, like Melody Loops or SoundCloud, you just need to be careful about downloading things you don't want. Sometimes the quality might be not be as good, or the format's not what you need. It's not going to have quite the quality and the options that you would get with something like Premium Beat. For photos, I definitely leverage Shutterstock a lot. iStock is another. There are a lot of websites that have stock photos available for download. Some are free, but just like with the music, if they're free, you're going to have to search harder for quality photos. My only pushback on Shutterstock is sometimes they lack the diversity that I would like to see in the people that I want on my microlearning events, and I have to go elsewhere to find those. For another resource is eLearning Brothers. Their characters and their templates are out. They have templates for every one of your development tools, such as Storyline and Captivate and PowerPoint. They have infographics. They have tons of images, and then their characters can be customized for your organization. If you want people wearing your logo shirt, they can do that for you. Again, those are subscription-based services, but a lot of their resources are free also. For graphic editors, you can use a variety. If you have an image and it's just not quite right, you need to remove the background. Actually, I use PowerPoint for removing backgrounds and images when I just want the main person or the main subject. But I'd say at the top end of the spectrum, you will have Photoshop as being the strongest graphic editor that we typically use. But if you're new to graphics and editing, you can even use your snipping tool on a PC-based computer. Everyone has a snipping tool, and it will just take a picture of whatever you select from your screen and allow you to copy it or save it and reuse it. I would say Snagit is a tool that's in between those two. So it has some capabilities that Snipping Tool doesn't have, quite a few actually, and it's also easy to use. InDesign is just something that's nice for making your Word document or your PowerPoint prettier. It has more design options for you. So those are just a few of your graphics editors, and it's possible to create your entire microlearning and never need to edit any graphic that you have. But come back to those. I'll also mention any of these tools that I'm mentioning. If you'll just go to their website, you can learn everything you need to know about them. If they're a subscription service, how much, how they work, and so on. Utilities are what we use when we have a resource we want in our microlearning, but it's not, it won't come into our development tool. For example, with GoAnimate, GoAnimate can be very picky about the types of video or audio that it will accept. You have to pull all of your resources into GoAnimate if they were not resident in GoAnimate. So I run into struggles with that. These utilities will allow you to change the formats or even just improve. If you need to improve your sound, your audio, there are utilities for that, improving your video, which Camtasia does a great job of that. So these utilities are for that transitional time for the most part. Trying to think if there's anything else I can say about those. Yeah, I think that's about it. On teamwork, when you have your team and you're ready to share what you've done, then you need a way to do that. These files get very large, and it's not something you could just send in an email. Now, if you're doing a desk share and you're just having something like we're having today, WebEx, Adobe Connect, tools such as that are great for a live sharing session. But if you need to send the file, I think that the best resource I have used lately is called ReviewLink. ReviewLink allows your users to each enter their separate comments. You can see who provided comments. They can see the interactions that occur on each screen and provide feedback to you. So it works very easily for them, just a link and they're going. So it's very easy to use, and the feedback is very helpful for you as a developer. Basecamp is something that more and more organizations are using because it does have a lot of firewall protections. It's fairly secure, and it's just a full-fledged collaboration, cloud-based utility. Its primary purpose is file sharing, but it allows you to do other things like chat and have to-do lists and some other collaboration tools as well. Dropbox and Google, I use more for just consultant to consultant file transfers. Most companies are not going to allow you to use those for uploading and downloading your files, but they are good for just personal use when you're trying to get your microlearnings reviewed. For distribution, remember we said that your learners have to be able to access this great product you've created. And at the beginning of your process, you want to assess, all right, how are they going to do this? And will my development tool work for the way I'm planning to distribute this microlearning? So we've already mentioned all of these distribution options, and perhaps you have more you'd like to share. Most of the time, these email, social media, corporate internet, and corporate newsletter, either a link that goes to some sort of CloudNet or intranet-based file will be the way you'll want to distribute your microlearning through those outlets. For an LMS, you're probably going to have a resident file within your LMS that people will be accessing. And for all of those, you need to know, how do I publish my completed microlearning? And that gets to a whole other topic. So let's move on to learning. At this point, with that wheel going round and round, you may feel like that infographic was a little overwhelming. Well, let me just reassure you by saying probably for me, a year ago, I might have been familiar with maybe 50 to 60% of those tools that I just showed you, maybe more, but there were so many that were new to me, and you learn so fast once you get into microlearning development. So do not be overwhelmed by all the tools that you just saw. If you'd like to learn more about those in a formal way, if you're using Articulate products and you feel like, okay, I'm just kind of getting into them, but I'm not really understanding what's going on, each of these links, by the way, if you download this PowerPoint, which is provided as a file on our Adobe Connect screen here, this is a link to eLearning Heroes, and any of the Articulate products, you will find individuals, templates, downloads, questions and answers, a forum. It's a very robust community to help you with Articulate products. Captivate has something similar. I haven't found the robustness to beat it I see with Articulate. So if anyone has any Captivate communities that they've found and found a lot of help, I would love for you to enter those in the chat. In beyond those, we have lynda.com. Lynda.com is a resource of very qualified and very high quality learning. They can be anywhere from 15 minutes to, I don't know, series that go on for hours. You can take as many as you want. I believe you can get a 30-day trial period free, so you could try it out or ask your employer if that's something that is available to you. But anything we've discussed today, I think you could find an expert that is providing a course through lynda.com. So I encourage you to check that out. The e-learning guild and the e-learning industry, if you go there, query on anything that we've discussed today or anything you want to learn, you're going to find people, resources, a community to help you learn more about what we've discussed today. And finally, I cannot stress enough, getting your master's degree will set you apart. Harrisburg University provides a master's degree related exactly to what we have discussed today. You will see your rates that what you're able to earn increase, your credibility increase, and of course your experience and your skill level will greatly increase. And I would say for me, getting my master's degree in instructional systems design is definitely what set me apart and got me on my way into this field. So now we've arrived at the point where we're ready to create our own microlearning design collaboratively. And I believe, let's see, Justin, this is where I need to share my screen. Is that correct?
Yep. We can go to that layout, and just remember we want to get those files to share as well, but we can probably do that after we'll do that after, I guess.
All right.
So I'll bring up your screen.
Yes, you can download these files. They are the microlearning design document. It's really just one file. And what we are going to do is look at a microlearning design document. And if you remember, I said when you came up with your ideas, I would like to hear those ideas. Now, right now, I'm looking at my full screen because you're seeing it. You know what, Justin? I just need you to tell me because I can't see what you're doing. I guess I could go back, but I need to know what were some of those microlearning ideas that we came up with. If you could enter them in the chat, some of your favorites, and then Justin, if you can just tell me what we're seeing on the screen, I will pick one.
Yep, I will, and I'm not sure. We'll have to see. The screen share is spinning for me, so
Okay.
if anyone could give me some feedback in the chat to make sure they can see the screen. Okay, they see it spinning, so I'm gonna stop the sharing. Yeah, we'll stop it, and let's have you try it again.
All right. I could try using the draw tool, and just work on our presentation. If that works, I could do that.
Let's try to share one more time, and we'll go to that as a backup.
Okay. Again. I chose share.
You should just be share desktop, right? And choose share desktop.
Yeah, I did. Start again from the beginning. Share desktop. Share.
See your mouse. There we go. Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, we can get. I'll keep an eye on the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat for you for the comments, and I'll just vocalize them.
Okay, so if those chats are coming in, let's hear some. I might be able to switch back and forth. Let's see. No, it doesn't work. Okay. All right. So what are our ideas?
We got make a customer call.
Okay.
Make a customer call was one that we've had.
Okay.
Right, I know one that we talked about was let's do it. Good.
All right, let's go with the customer call. How to make a customer call. That's what our microlearning is going to be about. Now I need some key points. If we're going to make a customer call, what's the first thing someone would need to learn? And if we can make them realistic, that's great. Again, if you can enter those in your chat, we'll just grab a few.
All right, we have prepare for the call.
Okay.
We have um, we have we have etiquette.
Yes.
We have dialing. You know,
Mhm.
operating off a script.
Yes, using a script. That's excellent. Okay. I'm going to call that also a value proposition. How are we going to explain what the value is that we're providing? Okay, that gets us moving a little farther. Any more? I could put a few more here, but those are,
Yeah,
we could,
no, just tone. Tone is on there, and greeting and closing. But I think we got most of it.
and I would say for this one, this would probably be that high level first look at the topic, and then we could delve into each one of those topics for a follow-up microlearning. So for distributing lists, let's assume that this is a global organization that has every conceivable technology other than we're not doing virtual or augmented learning, but they do have the ability to distribute video, audio, and all the things we've been discussing today. So which of these would we like to do? This is going to be on demand. This is something that the call center representatives use when they need it. So I'm going to choose that they can receive this as an introductory email. Initially, they would be informed that it exists. It would also be on their intranet, on their website, the area that is specific to them. Also, one thing that's not on here, I'm going to add it right now, is it's going to be on their employee dashboard. They will have a place where they have access to key learnings, and that would be part of their employee dashboard that they would see. Okay, I think we'll stop with that. It's not going to be required, so I will not make it a part of their LMS. For media, if you'll just again start chatting, and Justin, if you'll let me know what we're getting a lot of as far as what media would we like to include in this. Do we want, for example, do we want a star performer demonstrating with backup text and graphics to support that? Or do we want a step-by-step that is more text-driven? We want them to have an opportunity to, I don't think in this they could actually practice, but we could create.
We're getting a lot of animation.
Okay, animation. All right. Awesome. So that animation would be someone actually perhaps performing the call, and also there would be someone describing what's happening in that call. What are those best practices that are being done? All right. Great. Anything else? We know we're going to have
we have audio.
Yeah. Okay. Did we want to have, well, we'll get to that in just a minute. We'll stop with those right there. Okay. For delivery platform, now we've got animation. Notice we did not select interaction. So this might be a passive viewing where the learners are not being asked to select anything or do anything. So given that, what delivery platform? Again, if you'll just start making your choices, and I'll let Justin tell me what's coming up most frequently.
Go Animate came up as one of the first ones.
Okay, storyline, presenter.
Just Go Animate was one that just came up.
Yeah, Go Animate. All right, well, since I'm using it and I'm liking it, I'll go with Go Animate because that does allow motion. It allows text and graphics. If I wanted to pull in a little bit of video, you can also incorporate some video there. So yeah, that definitely suits our needs. Perfect. Okay, now this is a question we need to address. Do we want a star performer in our, what do we say, our animation? Do we want someone that is recognized as an expert? They may be the chief whatever of the call center, the director of it, the vice president of it, whatever, or they could just be one character that we use consistently throughout that's not necessarily someone within the company. Or we could have no narrator. We could have voice narration, but there's no actual person on the screen. And let me explain here. The reason we would not have a narrator is because that narrator actually visible on the screen, if they're not performing the action, they actually get in the way. And the message becomes lost because we're too focused on a talking narrator. I think my choice for this would be to have no on-screen narrator and let the animation speak, let the animation tell the story, and that animation may be a person actually performing the task, but we would not have a separate narrator visible on the screen. They would be talking in a script, but we would not see them. And so if we're doing call center, with this organization, would it be a good idea to have some photos that are actually from your call centers? That's a good idea. We should perhaps do that. We can use stock photos if we don't have exactly what we're looking for. I think in this, I would avoid animation to give it a real look and feel of the actual work environment. If there is a system involved that they'll be interacting with as they go through their call, we could have some screenshots. Perhaps those scripts would be visible as screenshots showing how to access and use those scripts for their calls. And then finally, what do you think about music? Do we think we should have no music? Would it be too much to have the music very, very low in the background? Or should we just keep our focus on what's happening? I would like to hear what you think. No music or music?
We've got a few folks typing here. It's got some, intro music seems to be beginning and end music.
But okay. Okay, beginning and end. All right, that's what we'll do then, beginning and end. All right, when we can get out of this now, but that's as easy as that's how we would create our design initially. Of course, you can go deeper and let's see. Do I need to stop sharing? Stop. Do that. Justin, will that take us back to our presentation? Awesome. Okay. You can take that and adapt it as you wish. It is a file download. Justin, do you need to mention again how to access those files? You there?
Yep, sorry. I will bring. Yeah, I was talking to the muted mic. We had them up. I'm going to bring them up.
Okay.
I'm going to bring up again here for you. Put them out to the left, right above the picture.
Perfect. So you can download the microlearning design document, and you'll see what we just went through. Also, beyond what you just saw, there is also microlearning development steps, and those are the ABCDs that you saw in the microlearning event. And so those 10 steps, easy peasy. All right, so does anyone have any questions? I saw a lot of chat. I tried to look at it a little bit. I know, thank you, Justin, for answering a lot of the questions that came up and for answering them among yourselves. Are there any that you have for me that went right by and I never saw them? We have, it's like 2 minutes.
Sorry. Yeah, I've been kind of storing them. So if you want, I'll read you some. I'm trying to keep them off the screen here. So let's take a look.
Okay, perfect.
How much time would you give to content research, including SME feedback?
The typical answer, it depends. But I try to keep the research limited and let those subject matter experts provide that to me. I try to stay responsible for framing the learning and how it will look to the learner. Let those subject matter experts provide you the research.
Okay, we had one come in that I thought was interesting. Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead. That's okay.
The idea of GIFs or GIFs, however the pronunciation is, using that GIFs or GIFs for microlearning, is that a viable?
Wow. And when I think of GIFs, I'm picturing the ones on my phone that I send to my friends. So define it for me. What are we talking about with GIFs?
Well, it could
We
be.
only have 1 minute.
It could be an animation. I mean, it's basically like a small video file. It's motion within a picture. It's
Okay.
in between a
So
picture
as long
and a movie.
okay. Yeah. All right. So as long as there are no copyright restrictions on it, I think that's fine. The things that are recognizable are awesome to use. I love them, but most every time I hit a brick wall because the client says we can't use that because copyright, legal, and so on. So I get stopped right there. It's the top of the hour, Justin. I probably need to turn this back over to you, but I would love to hear more questions. Remember, you can email me and contact me in various ways, and I'll turn this back over to you. Thanks so much.
Yep. Yes. Absolutely, Teresa. We can all the content provided by the participants in the webinar. We have it all saved, all the polls and everything, and I have the questions saved as well, so we can recap and maybe we can get some communication out to the users. We are going to wrap up here. We want to stay true to the time frame. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Teresa. This was great. These last few have really, the last few of these webinars have really been awesome, and I hope everyone's getting a lot out of them. I want to thank everybody for joining. It was a good time, and if you don't mind, please stick around just for a few minutes and fill out the feedback form. We take the feedback on the webinar seriously. We try to use the participant feedback to improve the webinar, so please take a moment, fill that out for us, and thank you all very much, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you, everybody.